Here at Raggedy Hen Farm, and we are getting into what I like to think of as baking and food season, even though really it's always baking and food season. We are going to do another jam recipe today. This is called Thumbprint cookies, and it's a good old-fashioned recipe, and what I like about it is everybody loves them, but they're actually full of some kind of good for you stuff, so including some of our homemade jams. Okay, the very first thing that we are going to do is we're going to chop up the walnuts, and you could use any kind of nuts that you wanted to. You could use almonds or pecans, but I'm going to use walnuts. And this is 3/4 cup. I get kind of the broken pieces because it's cheaper that way, and we're going to chop them up anyway. And you're going to want these to be pretty fine, actually, because we're going to be rolling the cookies in them. You could do this in a food processor if you have a food processor. I have a little chopper that I sometimes use. It takes longer for me though to actually put the nuts in it, chop them up, take them out and clean it than it would be for me to just throw them down on a board and chop them. Now when I said that I think these are full of stuff that's good for you, part of that is because they have these walnuts in them. We use our homemade jam, so we know that it doesn't have preservatives and corn syrup and things like that in them. And they're made with brown sugar instead of white sugar. Okay. I wish I could do this instantly for you, but alas, it takes a little time to do it up nice and fine. You will probably recognize these cookies. I only know them as Thumbprints, and they have little bits of jam in the middle of them. They're wonderful at the holiday season because they can end up looking with all these beautiful jewel tones. Okay, so that's my nuts right there. I'm going to scoop them into this bowl. Hopefully without making too much of a mess. Sometimes it's messier to use the tools than it is to just use your hands. So if your hands are clean, it's your kitchen, go for it. Okay, so now that we have the walnuts all chopped up, we're going to start making the cookie. We're going to start with 1/2 cup of butter. You could use margarine. If anybody's still using margarine, I don't know why anybody's still using margarine. Or you could use vegetable shortening. It's a good idea if you use vegetable shortening to use at least half of it in butter. I'm using unsalted butter, but you could use salted butter. And I'm going to cream that up a little bit. And as it's creaming, I'm adding in just 1/4 cup of sugar. That's all. And this is sort of a small batch. It's going to make maybe about 3 dozen cookies. So, but if you wanted to double it, it'd be easy enough to do that. Okay, now we are going to separate an egg. The yolk is going to go in here. The white we're going to use for something else. One of the things I love about our eggs that our chickens lay is it makes it so easy to separate the yolks from the eggs. Fresh eggs, it's so much easier. When you're using older eggs, the whites are kind of runny, the yolks are kind of runny, and you end up kind of with a mess. So that's what I love about these eggs. Okay, so we're creaming this all together. At this point, I'm going to add in the vanilla. This is our vanilla. If you've watched other videos, you know we make our own. We use organic vanilla beans. We put a few in here, kind of slice them open, fill the jar with rum or vodka or whiskey or bourbon, and let it age. So, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Oh, I love it. It kind of smells vanilla-y and it kind of smells boozy. our dry ingredients, we've got 1 cup of all-purpose unbleached flour. Ours just happens to be organic. If you can't get organic, it's okay. I'm putting them all in here together. About 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And that is it. This is a fairly thick or stiff cookie dough, so you don't have to worry about chilling it. But at this point, if you wanted to, you could mix this up, wrap it up, put it in the freezer, or chill it and make it at another time if you want to make stuff ahead of time. But the cookies store pretty well, so it's okay to just go ahead and bake them as well. Nice and thick that is. Okay, now hang on, I have to grab a fork. Try to get organized, but I forgot. So you want to kind of whip up the white with a fork. The egg white is what's going to help the walnuts to stick to the outside of the cookie. And I basically just sort of whip it up until it gets a little frothy, and I know that I've kind of broken up the membranes. So it looks like that. This is another one of those recipes that's super easy and great for kids to help with because it's hands-on and but not too messy. Okay. So here's the trickiest part, well, except for maybe putting the jam in. Roll this in a little ball, you dip it in the egg white, and it goes on the cookie tray, just like that. Now you may be wondering why they're called thumbprints, and I'm going to show you why they're called thumbprints. So, you're putting them about 1 inch apart. You're actually going to take your thumb and make a little indent. If you're doing it with kids and they use their pointer finger or any other finger, that's no big deal. So if you can see, they have nice little holes in them, and when they bake, those holes, those little indentations will remain. They won't be quite exactly the same because the cookie puffs up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to finish making these cookies, pop them in the oven, and I'm going to show you what they look like when they come out. Okie dokie, they are coming out of the oven. I made these kind of big. So if you're thinking, hey, there's not 3 dozen cookies there, that's because I made them kind of big. So there's a little more than 12 cookies here. You make them a little smaller, you could get a couple dozen, or just multiply the batch. And you see our little thumbprints remained. I am sure you have seen these cookies, particularly around the holiday time. And they look like they would be fussy, but they're not. I don't have time for fussy. So we're going to allow them to cool for a few minutes, and then we're going to add the jam. Okay, we're just about ready to fill these with jam, and we're going to use some of our Raggedy Hen Farm jam that Terry and I make, and we have several different varieties, so it's kind of hard to choose. We do a vanilla peach, we do a blackberry, we do a spiced pear. I think what I'm going to use today is a blueberry and our ginger vanilla fig, which I think is delicious and comes from figs that we grow right here. So this is the fun part. It's super easy. You're just going to basically fill the little indentation with jam. And it just sort of settles into there, into where your little thumbprint was. And you get this wonderful sort of brown sugar-based cookie. The walnuts get so yummy when they're toasted in the oven. And I really do think, I'm very partial to like fresh homemade jam because I think one, it's not made with corn syrup. It has a lot less sugar. And for us, we make our jams, it's usually a matter of less than an hour for most of them from the time they are picked to the time they are preserved. And I think it's a wonderful way of having a little bit of fruit in the winter. Alright, so here is our beautiful plate of Thumbprint cookies. And you can imagine if you have strawberry or apricot or any of these other wonderful flavors of jam, it just ends up looking like jewel tones. And these are great for the holiday season, but they're also good just any time. They don't, as you might imagine, they don't really sit in a cookie jar very well, so it's best to kind of make them, serve them. You could put them in like a Tupperware container and seal it up. I'm going to eat one of the fig ones. Thank you for coming by the kitchen here at Raggedy Hen Farm. Oh my gosh. It's like a Fig Newton, only better, because you can taste the butteriness and the nuts. Oh my gosh. Yum. Okay, we will see you next time here at the crossroads of urban and farm. Thanks a lot. Bye.